Welcome to the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, presented by best-selling author, speaker, and sales and business growth consultant, Archer Atlas. And here's your host, Archer Atlas.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, hosted by me, Archer Atlas. Very quickly, if you'd like to get show notes, transcripts, and updates on when new shows are released, as well as 2 free gifts, my best-selling book, Build Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, and the audio program, Going Up, how to generate more and better leads quickly and inexpensively. If you'd like all of that for free, simply go to www.theatlascast.com and subscribe. You'll get it all. The updates, the show notes, the transcripts, and the 2 free gifts. Build Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, and Going Up, how to generate more and better leads quickly and inexpensively. Just go to www.theatlascast.com and subscribe. All right, this is episode 13 already of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business. We're going to continue where we left off last episode with the next and last 5 of the top 10 rules for selling. Now, last episode, we covered the first 5 rules. This episode will be the last 5. So these are the top 10 rules for selling anything. Now, that's whether on the phone or in person. And actually, these rules, most of them, they can be applied to not only selling situations, but also to your life situations, and communicating with others. All right, so these will be the last 5 of the top 10 rules, with another quick explanation of these rules and some more examples, which I probably should have done a better job with the first time out, when we quickly covered and just listed these rules back in episode 11 of this show. Anyway, here they are. Here are the rules, all 10 of them. Rule number 1, ABC, always be closing. Always be closing. Rule 2, end down. Rule 3, you're speaking with a peer, your equal. Rule 4, blow off BS objections. Buyers are liars. Rule 5, cut off excuses. So those were the 5 we covered last episode. Here are the next 5 that we'll cover this episode. Rule number 6, be economical with your words. Rule 7, he who speaks first loses. Rule 8, don't repeat the prospect. Rule 9, reneges. Rule 10, GAC and JFDI. So let's cover these last 5 rules one by one. All right, Rule 6, be economical with your words. This is pretty easy and straightforward. Don't use 10 words to say what 6 could do a better job of. Use an economy of language. Now, it's one thing to say this and another entirely to actually do it. Most of us, myself included, well, myself especially, we can all ramble on a bit much. Just don't do it. Like I said with the last rule of the last episode, cut off excuses. Don't let people ramble on. Now this goes double for yourself. Now that's all I'm going to say on this, just to stick to my own advice. Well, there's one more thing. Like I said, don't use 10 words to say what 6 will adequately convey. Same goes for syllables. Be economical with your use of syllables. This is probably even more important than making sure you economically use your words. People understand and are more motivated by short words and short sentences. So, don't try to cheat by using words like anti-disestablishmentarianism and thinking you're okay because it's only one word. That's 12 syllables in itself. And that last sentence said a lot more in just 8 words, which is 33% more economical word-wise. Okay, rule number 7. He who speaks first loses. Okay, this is actually a favorite of mine and a pretty hard, fast rule, except on occasions where you want to break this rule. Now don't worry, we'll go over those cases too. So, he who speaks first loses. It's also she who speaks first loses for the politically correct among us who haven't been scared off or offended enough to leave for whatever reason. Look, when you ask for the order, remember, you always have to ask for the order every time you stop speaking. That's rule numero uno. ABC, always be closing. So, when you ask for the order, the next thing out of your mouth better be nothing until the prospect or client speaks. Don't say a word. Ever. Just sit there in silence and listen for them to speak. Most times, when someone doesn't speak for any amount of time, they're in the process of saying yes or finding a way to rationalize a yes they are about to say to you. Why would you ever want to interrupt that? Don't do it. If it means you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs for 10 seconds, don't say a word. If it means you're there for a minute, don't say a word. And if it means you're there for 10 minutes, maybe don't say a word. Now, for many seasoned salespeople, this is an absolute hard, fast rule. One that can never be broken. I almost agree. Almost. You see, if you're on the phone selling, you have no idea what the guy on the other end is doing. You can't see them. You can only hear them. And if for some reason that guy isn't speaking at all, and you can't hear him working it out a little, you have nothing to go on. If you don't hear a peep on the other end, for all you know, this guy could have just set the receiver of the phone down, walked away, and he's probably off making a sandwich or already on his second round at happy hour. If you don't speak first and you wait for that guy to speak, you might just be collecting Social Security before he gets back to you with a yes or no. So with that, if you're on the phone and you can't hear the person on the other end, and it's been a while, you might just have to break this rule. But only do it if you can't hear anything on the other end. If you could hear breathing from the prospect, then don't interrupt him. Just wait it out. Because he who speaks first loses. All right, so when I would break this rule, most times it was because the guy on the other end simply walked away, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't wasting my time. I'd usually wait a bit and then give another quick close. If I didn't hear anything, I'd safely assume the guy walked away and I'd hang up and move on. No longer wasting time. All right, rule number 8. Do not repeat the prospect. Do not repeat the prospect ever. Now, we actually covered this quite a bit a few episodes back. I think it was episode 9, handling objections, mostly fake objections. Look, just as replying to silly objections makes the objection real in the prospect's mind, the same goes for repeating objections. Don't ever repeat a prospect's objection. It will only solidify it and make the objection all the more real. Address the prospect's excuse and ask for the order. Never ever repeat. Do not repeat the prospect ever. This not only goes for objections, both real ones and fake ones, but it also goes for positive responses. Here's an example. Look, John, there's not a doubt in my mind you should take the 100 shares. Okay, I'll do it. You'll do it? Wrong. Never repeat the prospect or client. It can only hurt you, never help you. Here's another example. Let's say we're working on an ask approach, trying to generate qualified leads by offering a white paper and asking the prospect to attend a webinar. Now, let's say the prospect says yes. The next thing you do with an ask approach would be to transition to asking some reference and or qualifying questions. Here's an example from my broker days. Fair enough? Yeah, fair enough. Great. Just so we don't waste time in the future, let me ask you, which brokerage firms are you currently doing business with? JP Morgan. JP Morgan. Great. Wrong. Never repeat. It shows that you don't value the prospects or your own time. And it breaks the economy of language rule as well. And it can only hurt you and aggravate the prospect, and it cannot help you. Instead, what you want to do every time a prospect or client gives you something you want is to pat them on the back. Congratulate them almost for making a smart decision and doing the right thing. Which brokerage firms are you working with? JP Morgan? Fantastic. Then you roll right into the next thing you want to say, whether that's asking a question or wrapping up the conversation. Fantastic. And what was the last stock winner you picked? Halliburton. Great. Now, how much would you say you have wrapped up in the market? Ballpark figure. Pat them on the back, then roll on with it. It works the same when you're actually selling, too. Listen to me on this one. You want to own 100 shares. All right, I'll do it. Fantastic. How do you want to title this account? Individual or corporate? Pat them on the back and keep rolling on. never repeat the prospect or client, even when, or especially when, they're giving you what you want. Now, when they give you an objection, the same rule applies. Never repeat them. I have to talk to my wife. You have to talk to your wife? Wrong. You just made that real by repeating it. Never repeat. If you didn't quite catch what the prospect or client said, by all means, ask them to repeat it. But don't ever try to clarify or confirm that you got what they said by repeating them. Unless, of course, you want to disarm them and be humorous. But let's not get too much into that right now. You know what? Actually, I'll just give a quick example. Let's say that you're trying to sell something, and let's just say that you have some rapport with the prospect, but they're still not saying yes for whatever reason. Now, this might be something to get a laugh and get their guard down and get them to say yes. John, there's not a doubt in my mind you should take the 100 shares. I can't do it. Okay, great. So you want to do it. How do you want to do this? Individual or corporate? You might get a laugh. Who knows? Which brings me to a major point here. Take any of these rules, and you'll find that there are times to break each and every one of them. Just make sure to use your judgment. And by the time we get to the last rule here, you'll see you can break them all and still succeed, as long as you just do something. That's the beauty of this all. If you're selling, you're already in a low percentage situation most times, especially if you're cold calling or just prospecting. Quantity can beat out quality. I can have the greatest pitch ever created. I can sell the greatest thing since sliced bread, and people could absolutely need what I have. But if I just sit on my hands and don't actually deliver that pitch to anyone, I'll have nothing. On the other hand, you could have the worst pitch. You could be completely inept at selling, stumbling on your words, and not coming across as competent at all. But if you talk to enough people, you will sell. And you'll sell an infinite percentage more people than the so-called sales whiz who doesn't get out there and sell. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's move to rule number 9. Rule number 9, reneges. People that renege on deals. They're part of doing business. Not everyone is like you and me. Not everyone lives up to their word. Not everything promised is fulfilled. Such is life. And such is business. People will renege on deals. That's just part of doing business. And if you're good at selling, you're probably going to get a lot of people to do what you want them to do. And you know what? Sometimes that's something that you get them to do is not what they wanted to do in the first place. And sometimes resentment over quote-unquote being sold comes a-creeping. And sometimes that resentment manifests itself as someone not living up to their word or actually paying for what they bought or gave their word on buying. And you know what? That's fine and dandy. If you get people that renege on deals with you after actually agreeing to do business with you or buy something, and that was a real yes, not just a steamrolled yes, where you beat the prospect to submission. If these happen, then guess what? You are good at selling. Having people renege on your deals is something that demonstrates that you're actually good. Take some pride in that. Then do what you can to reduce that number to 0 or as close to 0 as you possibly can. Let me give you a quick story from my broker days. All right, so as I've said in the past and in past episodes, I used to be a stockbroker. And working for a small boutique firm, as I did throughout much of my brokerage career, we had only one way to get clients. Well, 2, if you include working your network, which I did not have at all. So there was one way for me to get new clients and make some money, generate some revenue for myself, and that was through selling on the phone. So how it worked was this. I'd call up a guy out of the blue, get him to agree to buy some stock. Most times it was a small 100 share block of a good company that traded in the $30 to $50 per share range. So I'd get the guy to agree to buy the shares. I'd then take down some information, how they wanted to title the account, a general idea of their net worth and such, and the address I'd be overnighting the package to. I would then buy the shares for the prospect, now turned client, on his word. He'd then have a week to pay for the trade. And guess what? Sometimes these guys did not pay for the trade. And when that happened, You know who was on the hook? It was me. So, if let's say the guy agreed to buy 100 shares of a $40 stock, I'd buy that stock for him and give him a week to pay for the trade and cut that $4,000 check. There were some other costs associated with this trade. I'd have to pay for FedEx back and forth because I'd want to make sure the guy received the account opening package with his stock purchase confirmations right away. And I want them to get back to me as soon as possible. I'd also pay the ticket charges that the exchanges charged and which my firm then marked up. Most times, the ticket charges were $50 going in and $50 coming out. So I was on the hook for all of that. Plus, if the stock went down during that week, I'd be on the hook to cover the losses the stock would make. So if for some reason this $40 stock went down to, let's say, $35 during that week the client had to pay for the trade, I'd be on the hook to cover the loss of 5 points or $500 on 100 shares. Plus, I'd be out the FedEx overnight charge one way, and I'd be out the $50 in and the $50 out on the ticket charges. All very annoying when there was a renege, but it was a cost of doing business. And some of these reneges, they were pretty funny. Sometimes the exact opposite would happen. Instead of going down, the stock would go up. Actually, this is what happened most times. One time, I had a stock go up 10 points in a week and a client not pay for the trade of 200 shares. I even tried explaining to the renege that he was sitting on $2,000 profit and that he could get it simply by paying for the trade that he had already committed to paying for and given his word on. Anyway, this is a part of doing business. Don't let it get you down. People are going to renege on their word and on deals. It's going to happen. Possibly even more if you're good at selling. You just have to live with it. All right, we're running out of time here. Here's the last rule. We'll cover it more in another episode because it's worth covering in detail and really drilling down on. But for now, let's just spend 60 seconds on it. Rule number 10, GAC and JFDI. First, these are both acronyms. Well, actually, that's a misnomer. An acronym is something like radar or PIN number, something that forms a word that you can pronounce. These are what we call initialisms. Anyway, enough useless information. Like I said, we're running out of time here. GAC stands for get the guy on the phone, ask for the order, close him. JFDI stands for just freaking do it. Or some other F word can be substituted as well. These two are all about just doing it, taking action. Nothing happens until you do something. You know, my first boss out of college had a saying, do something even if it's wrong. Just do it. Take action. Now, don't do the wrong thing in terms of lying, cheating, or stealing, or being unethical. The wrong thing here means something that you might not be 100% sure is right. Like I said, it's all about taking action. As the saying goes, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The worst thing you can do is nothing. All right, let's wrap up this episode. If you'd like to get updates on this show, the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business, as well as show notes, transcripts, and your 2 free gifts, one being my best-selling book, Build Your Business Without Breaking the Bank, and the other being an audio program, Going Up, How to Generate More and Better Leads Quickly and Inexpensively. Just go to www.theatlascast.com and subscribe. You'll get all of these free of charge. My gift for being a loyal listener to this show. Last thing here. I'm holding an online summit that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. It's going to be me, alongside some other highly knowledgeable, hugely successful sales, marketing, and entrepreneurial experts, and the summit is going to cover a vast array of topics that will help you grow your business. Now here's the good news, and here's where you come in. First off, this summit is going to be free for you to attend if you're a subscriber to the show or if you've taken any of my courses. Second off, you will get to decide which topics we'll cover in the summit. I'll have more details for you in the next episode of the Atlas Cast. But in the meantime, if there's a topic you want covered in this summit, simply shoot me an email at archer@archeratlas.com and let me know. Like I said, I'll have more details about this for you shortly. All right, That's it for this episode of the Atlas Cast for Building Your Business with me, Sultan of the Sales Call, the Oracle of Overcoming Objections, Archer Atlas. Like I said, next time out, we'll continue where we left off a few episodes ago with how to overcome objections and the ABCs of selling. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'll see you then.